You have a great job, you have a family, a relationship, career success, financial abundance, and you still feel like, well, is this it? If you don't explore that, Eric, it turns into depression, it turns into anxiety, it turns into a life less lived, which I think is the greatest regret people have when they die. The thing that you think you're chasing to find fulfillment is the very thing that stops you from feeling fulfilled. Some portion of your life left, you don't know how much that is, and what you want to do for the rest of your life living that.
So just before we start, I've got Jay here. He's a former management consultant who has decided to, help people using breathworks, yoga, and psychedelic therapy, I believe.
That's right.
So yes, yeah. So that's Jay. Um, just to jump in, I want to get the grounding and the understanding of this first. What's the second mountain theory? If someone walks up to you and says, "Jay, what's the second mountain theory? What is it?"
Great. Well, Eric, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's such a pleasure to be here. Um, I spent my life thinking about, career success being all about yourself, your personal success, doing well at work, doing well at school, at grades, all of the things that society tells you is important to make you feel good, right? And you spend your whole life doing that, sometimes even without realizing, because you're so caught up in your conditioning, in your definition of success. But at some point, you do really well. You get to the top of wherever you want to be and you feel like you're doing really well. And then you still feel empty. I don't know how many of you on this show or Eric, if yourself, you got to that feeling where like you have a great job, you have a family, a relationship, career success, financial abundance, and you still feel like, well, is this it? And that's really what the second mountain theory is about, where you spend your life climbing your first mountain based on what others tell you is what you need to do to be successful. You feel empty after that, feeling like maybe there's more to life. And in that process, you go through a journey of self-discovery, of really unlearning, of understanding what matters to you, of understanding how you can be a part of a greater whole, to then embark on something called your second mountain, which is where you start from the very beginning and you realize, damn, there's a whole peak out there. And in this peak, it becomes about serving. It becomes about belonging rather than fitting in. It becomes about living a life of meaning and purpose and service and dedication. And you realize that this meaning that you lacked all along has started to come back. And that, in a summary, is the second mountain theory.
Okay, this is quite. I don't know how to put it because I was having this exact conversation with someone yesterday, actually, where I was saying to her that we are raised to think that we were born to work.
Mm,
So even as kids, all we care about is if it's about, oh, what do you want to be in the future? I want to be a doctor. I want to be that. I want to be that. So in our minds, that was the end.
yes.
Go through school, come out of school, get a good job, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's basically life. So I was saying to her that for me is not living, that's existing. You're just occupying space.
Surviving. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need to leave. So that makes sense. That really makes sense. And that takes me back to something that my dad used to say, that certain things were not part of the journey of us as men, as humans. They just happen to come by way of society. But that doesn't make it the end of your journey.
Yes.
And after
Absolutely.
that, there is more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what what really drives this is when you're climbing your first mountain, you're almost running on autopilot. You're going through the stresses of life because you've been shaped so much by the conditioning that you've had in your childhood about how to earn love, how to earn recognition, how to survive in the world. And so you follow the rule book that you were given, whether that's by your parents, a society, or the environment around you. Um, but there's this feeling where you feel like empty inside. And a lot of people don't recognize this until they get to quite old in their life and they realize like, whoa, I've worked all this time, but nothing's happening. Like what is the purpose of this life?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I was able to pick up this feeling earlier, and start to think about, well, what is this dissatisfaction? And let's stay with that feeling. Because if you don't explore that, Eric, it turns into depression, it turns into anxiety, it turns into a life less lived, which I think is the greatest regret people have when they die.
Yes, actually, yes. It's something that I also believe is the greatest regret, because I've thought about it and I'm like, the last thing I want is when I'm on my deathbed and I feel like I didn't do much. I
Exactly.
did not do enough. I like there was life ahead of me. There was so much I could do, but I did not do enough. Now, your foundation or your background, you said you were a management consultant. I know that comes with a lot of money. So I'm looking at how did you come up to the decision that, you know what, I'm going to drop all that, leave all that behind, and focus on, you know what, I'm going to start climbing my second mountain. How was it like? Did you just wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to do it, but or did it take you couple of months, couple of years just to psych yourself up? How was it like? How was your journey like? Walk me through your journey.
That is such a great question. Um, I'd say I've been so blessed that when you look back at your life, you realize everything in your life happens for a reason. Nothing is a coincidence. And so for me, I realized that I had other passions beside going to work every day.
Hmm.
And so I started, teaching yoga and breath work and meditation. And it's almost one of those things that you start with one class a week at the local gym down the road. And you realize that the more energy I put into this thing, I get so much more back from it. And suddenly you realize like it just grows exponentially. And so I woke up and I'm like, shit, I've got 8 classes a week. I'm organizing retreats. Like this is really, really something I feel passionate about. But what people don't talk about enough is taking that first step. And Eric, that is the hardest part. It's not so, it's even easier, let truth be told, to quit your job and do something else when you know there's something waiting for you or when you feel a greater call for a purpose. But taking that first step when things feel so unclear, so out of the reach, so undetermined, and almost like your identity is lost because you associate, like you say, management consulting. Oh, you must be earning a lot of money. Like, you're working high profile jobs, you're talking to CEOs. And then you have a side gig on a Wednesday evening teaching yoga. It feels like you're questioning your identity. But
Yes.
what really changed for me was one small step. And, this is my biggest learning that we often compare ourselves to like the best yoga teachers, the best breathwork instructors. And I realized if I had just stayed there, I'd be like, I have nowhere to go. There's too many yoga instructors in the world. There's no space for me in the world. But actually it was like, well, okay, I'm just gonna do one thing for myself. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is. But that really was the process. Now, it took a number of years of doing this, of constantly questioning, of asking myself, is this really good? Is this what I want to do? Sitting with that discomfort. By the way, also rationalizing my way out of it. Like, oh no, like I'm good here because I have a job and I can do this on the side. So I don't need to dedicate more time. You rationalize everything. We're human, right? So we find logic and meaning in everything we do until at some point we say, like, the question I ask myself is like, what would I regret more? Would it be not pursuing this thing that feels so close to my mission? Or would it be staying in a job that feels all right, but doesn't quite live up to the life that I want to live? And I think that the thought of having regrets was the greatest catalyst for me to make this move.
I think, yeah, because I believe this is also something that I'm actually currently dealing with. I do the podcasting, the media, and everything. It's a side gig. I work 9 to 5. So, and it's something I've been really contemplating, that I know that working for someone is not my thing.
Mm,
It's
mm,
just not my thing. Being in
yeah,
the corporate space is not my thing. I
yeah.
thrive when I do something that I love, when I do something that I absolutely love. So for example, whatever I do, I learned to do myself. So I don't have a team. I don't have a media team. I don't have a social media manager. I don't have any of those things. It's just
You're
me,
doing
one person.
everything yourself. Yeah.
Do everything because I absolutely love doing it.
Yes. Yes.
So if I have to sit down and edit an hour-long episode, whilst editing, I actually enjoy the conversation, the discussion, everything more. I just love doing it. So it's something I've been thinking about. When do I say, okay, I'm doing this full time? And I'm really looking forward to that day because I know to feel fulfilled in life, I have to. I have
Yeah.
to do it. I
Yeah.
I really, really have to do it. So I it's just my next question is something that I mean I was reading through the second mountain theory. I was going through it. I'm like, okay, so I got this question. It says I was like, you see, what's the moment most people realize that success or money is not enough? What is that moment that I feel like, okay, you know what? I have a lot of money, I have a lot of whatever, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
Because I remember growing up, one thing that I had someone told me was when you get successful to a point, it's very blunt. Because if I work so hard to purchase this phone, I feel a sense of accomplishment. I
Mm,
feel fulfilled. But
yeah.
if you've got the money in millions and then you purchase this phone, it's
Yeah.
just a phone. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and this person was extremely rich, but he said he's got all that money, but even if he's purchased, he gets himself a new car or buys himself a new house, it's a house. It's just another thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what's that moment that people realize? I think that guy was at that moment where he realized that money, success is not enough.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about all of this, and by the way, the Second Mountain Theory is a very famous book by David Brooks, right? Um,
Hmm.
but I think if I apply that logic into my own life, right? Um, the, the scientific research out there says, there's a certain income threshold that we all have to hit, and up until you hit that threshold, money's great. The more money you have, the kind of happier you become, and then you get to a certain point. Now, we can argue what that point is. Is it 50,000 pounds a year or 100,000 pounds a year,
Hmm.
whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
Doesn't matter. It's different for different people. And I think it's not worth kind of arguing about the semantics of where that line is. But I think what really matters is I think our association with money, our relationship with money, right? Now, climbing a second mountain or doing something you love in a life of purpose and meaning doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make more money. It also shouldn't mean that you make less money, right? Like, I think
Mm,
sometimes we have this relationship of like doing good or fulfilling your mission or purpose means that you abandon financial success. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? We need to reframe and rewire our own thinking to say, I can be a yoga therapist or a guide or a retreat facilitator and still make money because this is my unique contribution in the world. And in order for me to live my best life and to be of most value and service in this world, I need to have my physical desires fulfilled. Now, I think I think the question that really someone in your stage or in my stage not long ago asks themselves is, what proof points do I need to know that this is the right mission for me, right? Once you change your thinking to be less about, am I going to earn money, to like, what mission do I want to leave in this world? Is that mission possibly able to generate some revenue for me? You have to have some basic checks.
yeah.
And you need to feel so strongly about that mission that you think, actually, this is worth sacrificing something in the short term to be more fulfilled in the long term. Um, and I think we always need to ask ourselves, why do we need money? I think we have a relationship from we were all born in a generation where money meant survival, right? So we've been wired to think that our worth, our survival, our being is associated to how rich we are.
Yeah.
Thankfully, some of us have gone past that point where money is not as essential to our survival right now as it was for our parents or our grandparents. And so if we have this privilege, we need to use this privilege to break that cycle and to find ways in which we can have a sustainable amount of money, but follow a calling that feels much deeper. And so that transition point, that point where someone realizes that actually I have enough proof points now that this mission is a mission worth following, is probably the point where they say, or where Eric, someone like you says, I'm going to quit my full-time job and I'm going to start podcasting, right?
Yes, I'm actually looking forward to that. Speaking about, I think you mentioned success and people thinking that when you follow your passion, you don't have to be successful. This is what I believe, or what I have seen, is
Mm,
the richest people that alive, basically the richest people, are those who actually follow their passion.
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
people who followed the gifts that they got in them, the passion, what they are the richest people.
Yeah.
Those of us who decided to not follow our passion and work a 9 to 5, we are not the richest.
Yeah. 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 The thing that you think you're chasing to find fulfillment is the very thing that stops you from feeling fulfilled, right? You think you're chasing a great job, a promotion at work, because that will help you. And instead, you're sacrificing something that's calling you so deeply, that's honoring your unique talents, that's honoring your unique being, that's giving you joy and excitement. And what you realize is, damn, I've got the money and the promotion and whatever else I'm looking for, but I still feel like kind of empty. Um, and, I believe that if you think about it, there's people in our lives, right? Like all of us have these people that like we meet them and we're like, oh, damn, like I want to hang out with you more. I feel so inspired by you. Just being around you makes me feel like I want to do something with my life. Now, those people are the people that are following their passion. They're loving what they're doing. They're having a mission and a purpose. And it doesn't matter whether they're that rich or not. What really matters is they're happy, so happy inside that they radiate that energy around you. And, you know, I feel so inspired by like the people that I've met along the way who are like that. And this is really what I think is for me a better place to be than being successful in the corporate career and climbing a corporate ladder. But I'd also say you don't have to quit your job all the time because some people really love what they do. If you love consulting and you love banking,
Yeah,
you could also do that, right? And
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's just that when you go into work, you're not waking up on a Sunday evening feeling crap about Monday morning, but you'll be like, oh, actually, going to work on a Monday is a great chance for me to mentor the people that I work with. It's a great chance for me to learn something new. It's a great chance for me to teach others in the field how to rise up. So we also sometimes think that like working in corporate or anything doesn't mean that you're fulfilling your passion. Maybe that is your passion and you can go into work as a different person when you
Hmm.
have this mission behind you.
Yes, that I can clearly say that's not my passion, because I think my the days I hate the most are Sundays. I hate Sundays. I'm a very miserable person on a Sunday because I have to
Yeah.
go into work on a Monday, but I can be in here editing an episode all day, all night,
Yeah.
and I don't feel tired. It's just I love what
Yeah.
I'm doing. I feel like this is it, this is what I'm supposed to be
Exactly.
doing. Like I need to get this done. It's unfortunately, yes, it's harder to just stop one thing and move on
Yeah.
to another thing, because
Yeah.
obviously you've got to make the money and you've got to survive, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't podcast on an empty stomach, really, or
No. No.
living on the streets of London.
Yeah. But what you've done and what I
Yeah.
did is exactly the right thing. We started dabbling with our passions, like,
Hmm.
oh, let's
Hmm.
do one
Hmm.
class, let's do one podcast a week, let's do
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah, yeah.
take some steps and steps and steps, and suddenly you realize
Yes,
and you wake up one morning and your podcast is going so well that you know that there's a path ahead for you to follow.
true. Uh, so I didn't want to start a podcast, actually. Well, so the idea to start a podcast came from people around me, because I've been quite good in the media. I'm good at having conversations. I'm very curious about things.
Yes.
So I would
Yes.
sit. I'll sit someone down and have a chat about whatever they believe in, whatever they think, whatever they feel. I'll have the conversation. People were like, You're really, I'm really good in the media because I work in marketing, media and the rest. Like, why don't you start a podcast? I'm like, no.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. I'd love to, but yeah, no, it feels like too
No.
much work. And then I started, and then I think my first video blew up on TikTok. Posted a video. I had like 27 followers on TikTok, posted a video, and then the next morning it had like 200,000 views. It's got followers are kind of like, well, actually, this can work.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
so,
absolutely.
so I remember one guy reached out to me and told me that this is what you're supposed to be doing. So do it because there's something about your voice that even when I was just scrolling on TikTok and I just heard you talk and I had to come back like, what does he have to say? So I feel like this is what you're supposed to be doing. So keep at it. Like, okay. So started trying to invest in a studio and, invest my time. So I think I have begun climbing my second mountain
Definitely.
while I was on my first mountain. Because it has to, I have to balance it for now and all that. When someone begins their journey to focus or follow or do the second mountain thing to follow what calls out to them, what what are some of the changes that on your journey, once you've taken a decision that, okay, you know what, I'm going to follow this, what are some of the changes that comes with that? How you think, how you do things, how you behave, your thought process, and your life in general. What changes? What's different? Someone would feel fulfilled, someone would feel happy. Like, what are some of the changes?
Yeah. I mean, you've hit most of that, but let's start with one that I think is so powerful. For me, when you're on your first mountain and you're following the script, I feel like there's so much pressure that you have to fit in. Whether that's with your work colleagues, whether that's in the
Yes.
environment you're occupying, with your friends, with the circle around you, with your community, you're kind of like fitting in. You're asking yourself constantly, like, am I going to ruffle any feathers? Is someone going to not like me? Am I going
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
cause some disruption? Am I, by speaking authentically and honestly, am I going to fear losing my job, my title, my status, my friends? When you're on your second mountain, your community is where you belong, right? So you're no longer fitting in, you're belonging. You are creating and attracting and surrounding yourself with people that are both inspiring you to do the work that you're doing and that you're also inspiring to lift and to continue driving your work forward. You care less about like what people think and more about whether you are true to a mission or not. You don't care about ruffling feathers when you know you're speaking the truth. You don't care about the topics you speak up on because you're not worried about whether you're going to be judged for talking about those things.
The next thing I want to you see, there are a lot of people that procrastinate.
Mm,
We all feel, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next year. I'll do
yeah,
it next 2 years. Give me 3 years. You know what?
yeah,
Give me 5 years tops. I'll do it.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
do it. Yeah. We keep procrastinating. We keep procrastinating. And then when we're talking earlier, you said there are people who, the first step is the hardest. That
yeah.
taking that step to say, okay, you know what? I am taking the step to do this is the hardest. What happens, if someone never makes the shift, never makes the shift to, okay, you know what, I'm doing this. What happens to them? What happens?
That is such a great question. I'll answer that with a little story if you'll allow me to.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
absolutely.
was walking through a gallery. Um, I think it was in Spain, and I saw a grid, like boxes, right?
Hmm.
And on the top, it said Memento Mori, which is kind of Latin for remember you must die. Okay. And I didn't think much about it. But when I came back home, my wife and I, Disha, were thinking, oh, like it'd be nice to do some painting for our room. And this idea came up to me, and I remembered this grid with memento mori. And the grid is essentially 52 weeks of the year against 70, 80 years of your life. And you shade the years of your life that you've lived. So you get to the point where, we're in our 30s right now, and the grid that we painted had 75 years, let's say, and we shaded in between us, 35 or so years of our life. And so half that grid, more or less, was full.
Gone.
We'd shaded it off.
Oof. Yeah.
And we looked at it. I mean, I wish I had that painting to show you, but that was the moment for us where we thought, what happened? So the question to you, what happens if you don't make this decision, is you have very little time left to live a life fully. Now, by the
Yes.
way, that 75 years isn't certain, right? You could be run
Mm-hmm,
over by a
mm-hmm.
bus 5 years from now. Who knows? But it
Yes,
was that
exactly.
moment where we realized, like, some large portion of our life is already gone. We've learned so much from it. We've benefited for so much from the privileges, from the love, from the family.
Hmm.
Sorry, from the
It's all right.
environment that we've had. How do we use the gifts that we have to live a life more fully, more authentically? And I think it was that which made us realize we need to change.
Yeah. I mean that really painting that grid would really put your everything in context, because you can see that okay, you've used that much, you've just got that much left. And for me, it would I don't know, it would make me feel like, ooh, you're wasting time.
Yeah.
You're wasting
I mean,
time. So
I've shared like a picture of this grid on my Instagram, and it's such a powerful visual reminder,
mhm, mhm.
that you have some portion of your life left. You don't know how much that is, and what you want to do for the rest of your life living that.
Yeah. I don't want to imagine what I'll do working a 9 to 5 till, because you work a 9 to 5 for most of your life, and then you get to say you go on retirement. I mean, by the time you go on pension, you probably just have a year or two, to be very honest, because you're tired, you're frail, probably sick.
Yeah. And
So
you've never
imagine.
prioritized your wellness, so
Mhm,
you've always
mhm.
lived in a state of stress, in a state of autopilot mode, so that by the time you get to that age, you might not even be able to enjoy the years of retirement that you have.
Yeah, because I'm thinking what living in decades of stress would do to the body.
It's such an interesting question. So what we've learned through our experiences is that stress is stored across so many parts of your being, not just your body. We know now that your body stores stress in it, so all the psychosomatic effects of stress being stored in your body, right? It shows up as physical symptoms later in life. It shows up as pain, as chronic health conditions, as autoimmune conditions. We also know that chronic stress dysregulates your nervous system, which shows up in how you breathe. So, breathing through the chest makes you more anxious, which then, like, it's a cycle. It just keeps getting worse and worse. We, sorry.
So I grew up extremely anxious.
Mm,
It's something I speak about, I talk about a lot. I've always suffered, really suffered from
yeah,
anxiety.
yeah,
And at the time, I did not know what it was. I didn't know what anxiety, what I'm feeling. I didn't know it was anxiety. I just thought I'm just feeling something. Just didn't know what it was. Now, when you mentioned that, breathing through your chest and the rest has got to do with anxiety. When I'm anxious, extremely anxious, and I don't know how to explain it, but I just kind of like, I don't have to breathe, but I don't know how it works, but I kind of release something around my chest, and then I'll get like shivers,
Mhm.
going that way, and then the anxiety would pro- say disappear, but for a short
Yeah.
moment, a brief moment,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and then it will
yeah.
come back. I don't know. I kind of figured that out myself. I don't know how I figured it out, but I just figured out when I'm anxious and I just kind of I don't know how to explain it because it's not I don't breathe, but I kind of like do something with my chest and I feel like there's this release of or surge of something. So I usually sometimes I would literally um shiver, like you see
Yeah.
me physically shiver.
Shivering. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes. And then when that happens, the anxiety just goes
Yeah.
for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and then it's back. But yeah, that's my experience with anxiety. It's something I'm still dealing with. I'm extremely
And
anxious.
Eric, first of all, thank you for sharing that because you're not
No worries.
the only one dealing with this anxiety. And I think you voicing how you feel is such a
Hmm.
good and important discussion to have. But notice one thing that you did. You said the anxiety goes,
Yeah.
you kind of made that sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
body is so intelligent, and everyone's body is so intelligent that it knows exactly what it needs to survive. What you've just done is a psychological sigh. You
Yeah.
release, you breathe out. Your breath, what you just did, is kind of like a
Hmm.
breath. You would take a deep
Hmm.
breath in and you exhale through the mouth with this psychological sigh, sorry, physiological sigh. Um, and and that is an example of how your body, your breath, your mind is all connected. And when people deal with anxiety, what sometimes they do is they seek therapy, which is great, absolutely important. What I would argue is that we need a better approach that combines the body movement, the shivering, for example, is a sign that your body is releasing something
Yes.
with the breath work to be able to do what you've just done. Whew, something releases from my chest. With the therapy and with other types of therapies, like that for us is such a pioneering part of our approach that we actually feel like we do a disservice into the wellness space that we're occupying if we're not combining and talking about all of these modalities that need to work together. Um, and you know, I think the wellness industry has progressed so much, but there's still so much that it can progress by integrating these modalities. And I think we need to break these silos that you only need movement and fitness and breath work and therapy to be well. You need everything. Um, but that's a hard message to convey and a hard one to live.
Yes. I mean, as someone, as I said, who's dealt with anxiety, I've tried therapy. Thing is, for me, it felt like I, it didn't work in the sense that I don't even know where the source of the anxiety comes from. So I cannot talk about it
Yes, yes,
because I
yeah.
don't know.
This is exactly what we believe. You have stress stored in your body from your childhood, which you don't even know about. Your nervous system is dysregulated in a way that you don't know until you start to feel something like, this shortness of breath. But you have layers and layers and layers of trauma, conditioning, and beliefs in your subconscious that your brain has you can't access with your conscious mind. So, like you say, Eric, I don't know where this anxiety is coming from.
I don't. Yeah.
And so what do I talk about to a therapist? Yes, I can tell you how I feel. I can tell you what it does to me. I can tell you how it's manifesting, but I can't address the source of it. And this is why this combined approach of breath work and movement is so important because the breath is the connecting thread between your conscious and your subconscious mind. And sometimes through breath work, you can alter your state of consciousness to access those memories, those beliefs, those traumas, and process them in a way that they either start to surface or they start to be dealt with, addressing the root causes. And modern science or modern medicine will tell you, oh, if you're anxious, take a pill and maybe take some talking therapy. Now, none of those would work unless you are deeply embodied into your body, your breath.
Okay.
so that you can really release it at the root cause.
This was a good intro to what I wanted to talk about next. Integrated approach to wellness that combines movement, breath, coaching, and altered consciousness. Now, what really stood out to me was altered consciousness. What do you mean when you say altered consciousness? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, like I said earlier, we store all of these things in our subconscious. And sometimes they're not really accessible to us in our normal waking consciousness because our brain develops protective mechanisms so that we don't keep revisiting trauma from the past, because that would
Yes.
be like deeply disturbing, right? Now, your brain's through years and years of experience has developed ways to hide certain things in your subconscious, your beliefs, your patterns, your traumas, your conditioning. And altered states of consciousness is basically just meaning like a non normal state of consciousness, which suddenly allows you to access some of those things that are in your subconscious, reframe them, rewire them, or even resurface them so that you can start to deal with them appropriately. It works in different ways, and there's different ways to access altered states of consciousness. You can do it with your breath through techniques like a conscious connected breath, or you could do it through the help of psychedelic therapy in safe and effective settings that really think about the preparation and the integration of that experience.
Okay. I've tried meditation. That
Hmm.
was years ago.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore. I don't because when I decide to meditate or when I try to meditate or do the whole thing, that's when I feel my anxiety the most. So for me, it's very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
extremely uncomfortable because I feel my the anxiety around my chest area here. That's where I feel it here. I don't know if there's other places to feel anxiety. I don't know. But for me,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
literally a physical feeling. It's not just psychological, I'm anxious. No,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel it physically.
A tightness, the constriction. Yeah.
Yes, in my chest. I literally feel it. So I tried, meditation, try all that. But when I decide, okay, no, I'm going to meditate today, that's the time that I feel anxious the most.
Yeah.
So for someone like me, I don't know how the breath therapies and, everything works. Maybe I will be able to do it. Maybe I may not be able to do it. But for someone like me, is psychedelics the best approach?
Yeah. So I'd say that psychedelic therapy is not for everyone, right? Now, when we think about who it benefits the most, I think we have sort of some contraindications, right?
Okay.
Physical conditions. Now, think about this, right? Your anxiety probably shows up the most in your meditative state or when you're approaching a meditative state,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when your like the monkey mind has started to settle a bit, and then all this shit starts to come up, right? And
Mm-mm.
with love, right? Like all of these things are coming up, and you can like feel the anxiety because finally your running conscious mind has started to slow down, and then you can see the stuff that's below that, right? Now, I'd say that what really determines whether someone or not will benefit from the psychedelic therapy is the level of preparation that you put into it and the availability of integration support after. So, let me break that down a little bit. A psychedelic experience essentially involves using psychedelic substances, something like psilocybin, um, to essentially go on a journey. And a lot of things can happen in this journey depending on your dose, your conditioning, your state, the mindset you have, and the environment around you. Now, I think people think of, these experiences as like binary, a full blown trip or nothing. But there's loads of journeys in between with different doses of therapy, with different doses of psilocybin, for example, to manage what comes up. So, the long answer to your short question is psychedelic therapy going to work for you? Is it really depends. What matters is, have you had the right preparation for the experience through movement, through breathwork, through connecting with who you are, with your mindset, with really engaging, setting intentions? Are you in this care? Are you in the support of a qualified guide who understands you, who has the support network around, who understands what the experience is going to involve for you to be able to manage your conditions, who knows what dose might be appropriate for you and is able to guide you accordingly? And then, do you have the support after to integrate what you've learned into that, um, into your daily life, so that you're able to manage what comes up? Now, if you've got all of those things, chances are that psychedelic therapy will work for you. But yet, we would need to do a much better assessment of someone's level
Yes.
of anxiety and how they deal with
Mm,
it. So
okay.
it's a complicated question, if that's the answer.
Yes, yes. Yeah, but there's a lot of factors and things that would go into it, whether it would work, whether it would not work. I hope one day I would be able to get the help that I
Hmm.
need, to be very honest, because it gets, as I said, I feel it physically. So it's not just an emotion that,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
anxious now. It's a
yeah,
physical. There's a point where in my life, I think I forgot, a couple of years back, when I started doing public speaking, my first public speaking appearance, it felt like I was not in control of myself.
yeah, yeah,
So I obviously go up the stage. I was so anxious to the
yeah,
point where it felt like I'm doing stuff. I see myself doing stuff, but I'm not the one in the control.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
after the whole thing, I did not remember most of the thing. I didn't
yeah,
remember. I was
yeah,
that
yeah,
anxious. So,
yeah.
I mean, can you explain how that's even possible? Because for me, it felt like this shouldn't be possible. So, what's happening? How is this possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's a number of factors, right? It's You're exposing yourself into an environment that you perceive as a high stress environment. Your first time doing public speaking. Now, that creates all sorts of changes in your body, your breath, and your mind. Your body is more tense. It's secreting, the stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, to like take you through that moment. Now, you've heard of this, the nervous system is heightened, it's stimulated, it's like, "Whoa, I need to brace for impact." The way the nervous system braces for impact is the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
I need to get ready to run. Or sometimes people freeze, like you see a lion with the headlights. Then in your case,
Mm,
it was you basically encountered what a caveman would encounter when they see a lion. And so some people would freeze, but others would run. So your body, your breath, your mind is in this state of stress. And some of that stress is healthy, right? Because you need some healthy level of stress to appear and to get those hormones
mhm.
going. But you probably got to a point where that stress was so high that your brain has decided, like, this is an experience that is so overwhelming for me to handle that I might as well not remember it, right? Like, this is the layman answer of it. There's a lot of scientific depth behind it. But essentially, your brain has said, like, that was too overwhelming. I don't want to be, with a small t, traumatized by that event. And so I'm choosing to like let go of some of these things so that I don't remember them. Um, and this is how the brain works. And it's so complicated. Neuroscience is a whole field on its own, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but it's
Mhm.
this level of complication that happens in our bodies and breath when we go through these experiences. But I wanted to share a story, if it's okay, because
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
when something that triggered me when you said this, when you said, you have this underlying anxiety, but you don't know where it's coming from. I mean, I think we all have these things. We all have traumas from this lifetime, from my childhood. In fact, in the myth of normal, Gabor Mate says your birth itself is a traumatic event. In the way that modern people are being born, in hospital lights with all of this technical stuff around and
Mhm.
scapulas and stuff, right? So right from the moment you're born. And I'd argue even before that, in previous lifetimes, whether you believe on that as a concept or not, you have these things
Oh,
in
I
your
do.
subconscious. Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
believe in previous lessons. Yeah, I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what an altered state of consciousness does through psychedelics or otherwise is it gets you to sometimes go so deep that you understand all of these things. You look at your life from like a bird's eye view
Mm,
and you see the patterns that are repeating in your life that you notice that, whoa, actually, every time I've been in a situation like this, I felt anxious. And at the right dose with the right preparation and the right guidance, you can go deeper to understand that the source of that came from this childhood thing where someone told me that I'm not good enough, longer or shorter, before you get to that answer.
that I mean, this. I think we definitely have to part two where we go very deep into the psychedelic stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting because I've been seeing videos around, I've been seeing posts around where, they get all these stuff. There's some they drink, there's some they gets blown up your nostrils, and then they go into this thing,
Yeah.
and I've been seeing
Yeah.
them, and I find it quite
Yeah.
fascinating and quite interesting. Release your traumas, and I believe it's something that I can benefit from because as stated, I've tried speaking to people and about. I don't think it worked because I didn't even know what I'm talking about. Like, thing is, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, I just don't know. It's something I've been dealing with since I was like, even before I was a teenager. Probably like
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
so long. I've been dealing with this anxiety thing for so long, and to the point where it really affected my quality of life. There was a point where I was a very bitter person. I was constantly angry, constantly annoyed. Now, no more. I mean, try to deal with things, but yeah, it's hard. So I believe because the thing is, there are a lot of stigmas, let me put it that way, surrounding the use of psychedelics. Uh, in even spiritual stuff or therapy and the rest. And how do you deal with these stigmas? Because
Yeah.
people tell you, no, don't do it. It's so bad. You're inviting. I think I've heard someone say you're inviting all kinds of
The devil.
spirits and yes, stuff like that. So,
Yeah. 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 No, look, so I mean, I think we have to remember the history and the
hmm
context in which everything is done, right? No therapy, psychedelic, talking, breathwork, whatever, right, is 100% effective and safe for everyone. Like let's be honest
yes,
about that. Now, that being said, there was a movement in the 60s, largely driven by the craze in the US and during the Reagan times that that almost villainized the use of psychedelics because of the impact they were having on society, which was largely an effect of rebellion against the current system at the time, the war in Vietnam, etc. And so psychedelics were demonized as these like drugs, inviting the demon, whatever it was, right? And
yes,
obviously that culture spreads into society for a long time. Um, Now, that being said, like there isn't one psychedelic thing. It's a variety of experiences with a variety of substances, with a variety of different durations, in different contexts. What matters the most is the mindset of the individual taking the experience, what sort of intentions they have, how prepared they are, and how they're going to be supported after for integration. That is number one. Number two is the setting in which that experience occurs. Most people have their first experiences in a rave, in an environment that is not suited for deep inner work. Now, as a result, they have very challenging experiences. And so the propaganda continues of like psychedelics creating all sorts of things. Number three is people haven't had guides and facilitators assess them. Like, do you have any pre-existing conditions that would make you not suitable for this type of therapy? Now, when you control the set, work with the person to be in the right mindset, prepare. When you control the setting in a ceremonial, therapeutic, healing with great intentions, with carefully controlled surroundings, you can create an environment that facilitates the best experience for you. Now, that being said, like you say, there's some you drink and some you smoke and some you eat.
Mhm.
There are different levels, different intensities, different types of psychedelics that affect you in different ways. Some give you a very visual response. Some give you what is called an ego dissolution or a disembodiment approach. Now, depending on what you work with, the plant or the species or the medicine that you work with, you get a slightly different experience. I believe fundamentally that the medicine and the spirit of the plant medicine you work with calls you, and when you're ready for it, you will know and you will find the right people that will guide you through that experience. I don't believe that you can chase it. I don't think you can force yourself into it. I don't believe that someone can sell it to you. I think you have to know deep inside that the medicine, the plant spirit of this particular medicine is calling me. I am ready for it, and it is here to serve a specific function in my life. Once you get there, you will, I believe the environment around you will make itself work so that you get the experience that you need in that moment.
Okay. Uh, I've been seeing a lot. Some even don't. I mean, you guys approach it with therapy and the rest. I've seen some people that approach it strictly from a spiritual point
Mm,
of view.
yeah,
I think there's this one I saw where they said the whole idea is you take the psychedelics to go meet your ancestors, to um, go experience your past lives,
yeah,
see stuff, and all
yeah.
those things. Are all these possible with taking psychedelics?
Great questions. I would say this is the most fun part about psychedelics is that as a guide or a facilitator, I cannot control the experience you have. You will
Wow.
get the
Okay.
experience you need regardless of what your intention is. Let me elaborate on that. Now, I work mainly, let's say, with psilocybin, right? And there's different doses of psilocybin that, like anything, the intensity of your journey depends on the dose that you have. Now, the standard model by which psychedelics work is they do two things. The first one is they quieten down something called the default mode network in your brain. This is the like autopilot, the like the thing that makes life easier, make
Hmm.
good
Hmm.
decisions, rational stuff,
Yeah.
quietens it down. When that quietens it down, there's space for what we call like our subconscious and our like subconscious stuff to come up. That's one thing. The second thing is done is that it connects disparate parts of your brain that currently don't talk to each other. So think about your brain as like, to put this again in very layman terms, right? You've had an experience there and an experience there, and your brain's like, okay, those are two different experiences. What this does is it creates these like webs of connection between different parts of your brain so that your brain can make much better sense of everything going on around you. So your brain might have something stored from childhood and something that happened here and something that here. And suddenly those things are connecting and different parts of your brain are talking to each other. So they're connecting these things. You're starting to understand. You're having these aha moments like, oh shit, I went into one bad relationship and then another because of this thing. So you know, again, I'm simplifying it massively, right? So that's what happens. Now, at a certain point, there is the potential for you to have what is called a mystical experience from this. The logic behind that is we are part of a greater consciousness. So, we are connected to something that is much greater than us, this like world consciousness. And in what I call the altered states of consciousness earlier, you can have the ability to tap into that higher consciousness.
Mm.
What you get in that higher consciousness is an ability to see yourself as part of a greater whole. Some people call that a meeting with God. Some people call that a spiritual experience, whatever
Mm. Mm.
whatever meaning you put into it, depending
Yeah. Yeah.
on your conditioning, your beliefs,
Mm,
right?
beliefs. Yeah.
Is essentially you seeing yourself as connected to nature, to everyone else around you, to this whole world, this greater unifying force. And that is really the core of a mystical experience. Now, through that, you might be able to see how the concept of time itself doesn't exist. Time is a kind of 3D concept. The concept of space doesn't exist. You might see yourself as being connected to your previous, you see your previous lives, you see
Mm.
previous traumas, you see your relationships with other humans and other non-human things as well. But the core of it comes down to how psychedelics alter certain parts of the brain by binding to the serotonin receptors and creating these states within your brain that allows you to access those deeper states of consciousness.
Oh, wow. So, how I know mine is wow. How does all this help with trauma? As from a therapeutic uh, uh, point of view. How does all this, going on these journeys, and when you come back, what do you get? Is it just
Yeah,
a journey? You go, you come, oh yeah, I went on that journey, or you come with something changes, there's something new, there's
yeah,
something you learn. What do you
yeah.
get?
I'll tell you a story from one of our experiences. Working with a client, they had the view that they were holding on to so much, and they didn't know what it was they were holding on to. You feel weighed down. In your case, you're feeling this anxiety in your chest, a parallel to be someone who's feeling really weighed down by stuff. Like something feels a lot of pressure. Something feels like it's
Yeah.
weighing me down. Couldn't describe it, couldn't put words to it. They go through this journey and they realize what it is that they're holding on to. They're just realizing, like, some of the things in my life that I'm trying to control, I'm not anyone to control them.
Mm,
I'm I'm part of this greater whole, and this other people in my life, other things that I'm trying to control are just things that are happening and are part of their own process.
yeah.
And um at that point, they're able to say, look, I'm going to let go of control and I'm going to start living my life slightly differently where I don't feel like I'm going to have to control people and situations and things around me. I'm coming back to your question on trauma because that's a deeper question, but I just wanted to gently take
Yes,
us there.
yes, yes.
The second, another experience is someone goes in and they realize that um, the people that I'm experiencing so much resistance towards, you have people at work that you were just like, I can't deal with this person. People in our lives,
Yes.
families, friends, whatever. I think sometimes we see the worst where like this is an evil person, they're messing around with everything. People go through the journey. They see certain things. They see their own relationship and interrelationships with those things, with those people. And they come back and they think like, damn, those people are just trying their best in their human form to be what they are based on what they know, based on their condition, based on their experiences. And so they start to see these people with so much more empathy, with so much more love and connection, that they're seeing them not as these are people trying to harm me and therefore I need to jump back at them, but just as people who are trying their best to do what they need to, and I need to help them facilitate their experiences. Now, trauma is a very interesting concept. Trauma, depending on what causes it and how it is stored in your body and what it does to you, could be could come up in a psychedelic experiences where either you finish the processing. Sorry, to take a step back. Trauma is stored when you experience something, but you haven't finished processing it.
Mm,
So
mm,
let's say you undergo something as a child, and there are different types of traumas. Like you have an injury, or you have a sexual experience that doesn't serve you, or actually sometimes, so you're just being told you're just not a great kid. Your parents don't
mm,
like you,
mm.
and you're just like, oh, you're such a bad kid. Right? Different types of traumas, right? Those are different experiences. Now, your brain at the time just doesn't have the capacity to process that, and so it gets wired and hidden into your subconscious. Like, I'm a bad child. I deserve to be hated. I deserve to be abused. During a psychedelic experience, the main thing that happens is you see yourself differently. Those things start to come up. You see yourself not as a victim, not as someone who deserves to be abused, but someone who is much greater, much bigger, much higher than all of these things. You don't bypass them, but your body continues that processing to be like, I need to cry this out. I need to shake it out. I need to feel whatever I was feeling. This needs to come out of my body, out of my subconscious. It did happen. The event or experience did happen, but I need to change my relationship towards it so that it no longer affects how I make decisions in the future. When you then come out of the experience, when you integrate that experience with love, with care, with grounding, with earth, with music, with everything else that we offer in a retreat, for example, you can start to make sense of that so that when you come out of that space and setting, you tell yourself, I'm going to live my life differently. I'm not going to let that experience affect me anymore. I'm going to become, quote unquote, a slightly different version of myself.
Yeah, better version,
Um,
so to speak.
yeah. And and I think that, if you're sitting in a lab with a psychotherapist, you're connected to thing and you take a psychedelic, that experience looks very different to when you do it with a guide who's holding space for you with love and kindness.
Mm.
Um, and so again, this is why I say the set and the setting really matter.
The set and the setting really matter. Thank you so much, Jay.
Of course.
As I said, we will definitely have a part two, part three, part four, part five. Because
Would
there's
love
so much, there's so
that.
much to talk about. There's
Yeah.
absolutely so much to learn. I've learned so much today. I've come
Thank
to
you.
understand so many things, how things work, and it's got me thinking a lot. Like, yeah, first off, I need to start climbing my second mountain as fast and as soon as I can, because I need to feel fulfilled in life. I need to feel like I've made, I put the time given to me to good use, rather than living this autopilot zombie life where it's you wake up, you go to work, you close, you come home, you wake up, you go to. For me, that's not living. That's like you're just there. You're just there. You're just existing. So, thank you so much, Jay. We're
Thanks,
definitely
Eric.
going to have an episode, a second episode to this. Do send me your website, your Instagram, and all that. I'll put everything in the description. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for taking
Yeah,
the time to
of course.
have a chat with us today. And really looking forward to us to having more conversations and more
Thank
episodes on
you.
this. No
Thank you,
worries.
Eric. Can I leave with one message? Because I think, um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think you are exactly where you need to be right now.
Oh, wow.
Feels like, you feel like, oh, I need to do more and I need to do it faster. And I completely understand that feeling. I just want to remind you that you are exactly where you need to be right now because everything that you've learned in your corporate life in media and marketing will make you so much more successful in everything you do. It was not a waste of time. Um, and you will be guided by divine timing to get to exactly where you need to be. So trust the process, taking one step at a time. And it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you
Oh,
for
thank you
sharing your
so
platform
much.
with
I
me.
I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
I needed to
Thank
hear
you.
that. Now it's giving me clarity. What you said right now has given me so much clarity because it took my mind back to all the things that I know and I'm applying to my podcast. I learned in my corporate life.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah. I've
Yeah.
never thought
Yeah.
about it that way. Never seen it
Yeah.
that way. And now there's so much clarity that yes, now I understand how to promote a podcast, how to promote a show, how to do this, how to do that. So exactly where I'm supposed to be, and things will fall in place.